This video will probably be titled the Backrooms movie is going over everyone's heads. Um and I haven't really seen anybody talk about this. Like, I'm not on social media all that much anyways, but I haven't seen anyone talk about this, and I want to talk about the theme of the Backrooms movie that I got, at least. Uh it's pretty obvious to me, at least, that this is the primary theme, but basically it goes into like escapism and how we all have our own loops, and basically we all have our own quote unquote backrooms, and that that and those patterns are the least resistance patterns, like the therapist talked about. Those are the loops of least resistance, and whether they lead us on a good path or a bad path, those are the paths that a lot of us, I mean, it's very rare that someone has a day where they don't, you know, fulfill a habit that they have. But going back to escapism, why I'm saying that this is going over everyone's heads is that in America, for example, in America there's this big, huge obesity pandemic. I think the stat is that it's like 40.3% of Americans are morbidly obese. While, yes, this is obviously a large cause of this is the conditions we're living in, like capitalist stuff like that, where companies like McDonald's are engineering food to be addicting, and they're trying to maximize profit, minimize costs on the actual food. So, like, I'm not saying it's not like a conditional thing either, but like even myself needs to actually learn this theme. I could have went and gooned right now, right? Like I could be escaping. It's, I mean, like, I don't want to call it a problem, but it's not necessarily something that's good, I guess, or beneficial. I think the therapist also talked about you can choose the other thing, and every time you do that, your neural pathways are like rewiring, I guess. But I think a lot of people today are stuck in the back rooms, and it's causing them to be, you know, metaphorically eaten by the what's it called, the pirate version of them, like Clark was eaten by the pirate version of him, basically. I'm gonna use David Goggins as an example for this. He probably realized something similar to this, but when for example, David Goggins doesn't like to sit on the couch very much, so he started to choose the path of least resistance because he didn't want to get eaten by his choices. Which is what happens if you stay in the back rooms. But yeah, I mean, David Goggins, now he's a prime example of someone who became stronger by, you know, by consistently choosing the path of more resistance, of greater resistance. instead of, David Goggins could have been a nobody. He could have, um, stayed fat and, you know, disgusting as he called himself. By just staying in the path of least resistance. But I think if we all just learn from the Backrooms movie, bro, don't pick the path of least resistance. This ties into like emotions as well. Your own emotions in your head is kind of like the Backrooms in a sense. I mean, any sort of habits, whether you physically act out the habits or you sort of mentally, like everybody has mental, habits, whether you know it, you believe it or not. But there's some people that I think that there's a certain brand of person that, kind of doesn't really prefer to be sad, but they always end up being sad, or not sad, but just like in that emotional state that they claim they don't want to be in, but they keep getting themselves into this. They keep going down this loop, and it's just like a habit. It happens to certain people, but that's just what I wanted to say about it. It can apply to people's emotions as well. It's really hard to notice if you don't, if you don't have awareness of the things you're feeling. Like if I'm angry or something, it's hard to know that I'm angry when I am angry. This is going to be the first documented time that I mention this, but I'm a big fan of like meditating and meditation, which is why I named my YouTube channel G Monk, because my first name is Grant, and I'm not a monk, but monks meditate, and I don't know, G Monk. So, but as I was saying, meditation. I'm not some experienced meditator, but I have meditated a good fair amount in the past, and the first thing that I noticed was that I was clear-minded, so I was noticing the things that I was thinking about more often, and then eventually I meditated a few more times. This is probably like 6 months down the line, but I started sort of noticing not just the words I was thinking, but the actual feelings that I was feeling. And it's a lot of weird things that I was feeling that I didn't even know that I was feeling, but now I've been able to, since then I've been able to notice what I'm feeling and then ask. Sounds like I'm my own therapist, but I've been able to ask myself, why am I feeling that way? And then I eventually find out the answer. It's usually something extremely obvious, or not extremely obvious, but and then you tell yourself what you need to tell yourself about that thing, I guess, and then it eventually, if you actually choose to, you grow out of that feeling. But yeah, this might not, be applicable to every person, but yeah. I also wanted to mention this person. Why did they just put me on their team? Bro, I'm not. How do I go back to spectators? Are we serious? Or I can just like play. But the person that I wanted to make another example out of, who's kind of, I mean, in my opinion, making a huge storm right now, doing some pretty cool stuff, and his name's Brian Johnson. He's not exactly like David Goggins, but actually he's, I guess, in terms of a health aspect, they're kind of two ends of the spectrum. But in an odd way, because they're both healthy people and they both like to be healthy. But David likes to be more about I guess, I don't even know what to say, but they're definitely very different. Brian prioritizes actual health instead of just fitness, I guess, and mental discipline. They both exercise mental discipline is basically why I'm using them as examples. But Brian likes to talk about how most people nowadays they you know they die, I guess. They're killing themselves. Like he's very against vaping, he's very against fast food, everything that is slowly killing us. But he himself was a part of that though. He I think he was like a business dude, and then I think he sold his business, and he, I guess, didn't have anything better to do, so he just sold his business, became rich, got onto this like whole shtick of don't die, and he completely changed his life, and doing a lot of cool things for the world too. But yeah, he talks about a adjacent theme to what I'm talking about, though, is why I'm using him. Basically, staying in the back rooms, like I said, is basically the choices you're making lead to your death, and people want to choose the path of least resistance, but it like the Backrooms just is trying to show people, in my opinion, that the choices you're making are contributing to where you're ending up. But yeah.